Alright, in this video I will talk about the difference between velocity and speed. So we know that we define velocity to be the displacement over change in time, and we also have the concept of speed, which to calculate this quantity we need to know not the displacement, but instead we need to know the distance, and we still divide this quantity with the change in time. Let me give you an example so that you can see practically what this means. Let's say I have the 0 here, the x equals 0 is here. This is my positive x direction, so this points in the x hat direction. And this is, so let's say this is 1 in meters, this is 2 meters, 3 meters, so on. And let me say, so the units for this axis are meters. Now let's say that I have I start from here, and then I go in once. It takes me 1 second to go to x equals 3, and then it takes me another second to go back to x equals 0. So from 0 to 3 meters it takes me 1 second, and then from 3 meters back to 0 it takes me another second. Now in this case, for this motion from 0 to 3 and back to 0, my displacement is x final minus x initial. So to find the displacement I need to know the initial and the final position, and in this case my initial position was 0 because I started at 0 and I ended up at 0 again. So my x final and x initial are both 0. 0 minus 0. My delta t, it took me 1 plus 1, 2 seconds to do that, but it doesn't matter because my displacement is 0. So my velocity in this case is 0. However, the distance I covered in this trip is not 0. I went from 0 to 3 meters, so I covered 3 meters in that part of the trip, and then I went back to 0, so again I covered another 3 meters. So my total distance for this trip was actually 6 meters. And I covered that distance in 2 seconds. 1 second to go to 3, 1 second to go back to 0. So it took me 2 seconds, and this means my speed was 3 meters per second. So you can see a big difference here. The velocity ended up being 0, but the speed is not 0. This illustrates the difference, sometimes the crucial difference between velocity and speed. For velocity we need a displacement, the initial and the final position, whereas for speed we only need a distance.